Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to Talk Like a Leader. This week's episode is titled Maximizing Your Communication Power. And it's a continuation or expansion of an episode I recorded a few weeks ago titled Know Your Source of Communication Power. Now, if you're listening every week, you know that we took a break from new content creation on the intervening week between Know Your Source of Communication Power and this episode, Maximizing Your Communication Power. We re-released an episode titled Data Tells and Stories Sell. Well, here's an inside scoop about what's going on in the life of the Kevin Eikenberry Group and in me. Between traveling for training and helping support a live event, the intervening week between these two episodes, the live event with Kevin Eikenberry Group was called Virtual LeaderCon. It was a week-long event with Kevin Eikenberry, my friend, colleague, business partner, interviewing a wide range of experts in the field of remote leadership, communication skills, change management, those types of things. There was a collision of circumstances, and we frankly just didn't get a new episode recorded. So we re-released an episode that many people had enjoyed and commented on in the past. Well, this week I'm going to continue the conversation about communication power, sources of communication power. A quick review of what I mentioned in the previous episode, that there are really three basic sources that we can draw from that give us power in our communication. It's our position, or you might say authority, relative to another person, or the perception the other person has of your expertise. And then the third source of communication power is the quality, depth, nature, and history of your relationship with a person. So there's position, expertise, and relationship as three sources of communication power, or things that are true in your interaction with another person that contribute to the strength or power of your communication. In the previous episode, I implied that there's a bit of a hierarchy in the three sources of communication power. And I want to strengthen that a little bit and say I actually believe there is a relative hierarchy in terms of the power sources, with relationship being the strongest of the three sources, or the highest priority of the three sources, and with power or authority being the least influential and the most likely to create a negative or punitive feeling in the communication. I'm not negating the idea that power and authority contribute to communication power. What I'm suggesting is that that source of power tends in the direction of negative or punitive. It's not necessarily always 100% of the time negative or punitive. It just leans that direction, and if we lean on that source of communication power, which, by the way, is any comment that sounds something like this, do it because I said so, then it has a negative or punitive flavor to it. And the reason I would say relationship tends to have a higher or stronger source than expertise is that expertise can often take longer to build. Now, it may be true that if you have certain professional certifications or things like that, like you're a professional engineer or you're an attorney or you're a doctor, then there's a certain amount of presumed expertise that comes with the title. And so going through a official certification or licensure or legal recognition or academic environment recognition of some sort of expertise can lend expertise to you, and you can lean on that expertise in your communication power. What I'm going to suggest in a personal interaction with another person, relationship is going to be even stronger than expertise. So how can you maximize your communication power? I suggest it starts with relationship. And if you listen back to many episodes in the Talk Like a Leader podcast, you'll find there's a good chunk of what I talk about that's aimed at really ultimately relationship power. Now, here are a couple things to think about as you move forward, trying to be a more effective communicator in your leadership role. And in many respects, this sounds a bit like motherhood and apple pie. It's the kind of thing that is almost as soon as I say it, or I'm even thinking about it, it sounds almost like, well, yeah, that's kind of obvious, isn't it, Guy? And one of the things I find that happens in my communication with leaders, and when I'm talking with leaders, coaching, training, consulting, that it's the obvious things that can easily get overlooked and forgotten. So even though this sounds a bit obvious, I want this to be a bit of a reminder to you. In your leadership role, remember that you really need to get to know your team. What's important to people? What's their personal life like? What's their family dynamic like? What are their hobbies? You want to know their preferred communication style. I've got a number of episodes in this podcast aimed at the DISC model, and you can get more information about that at discpersonalitytesting.com or to look back at prior episodes related to the DISC model. I'm going to suggest that if you want to build a relationship with someone, do your best to adjust or adapt to their style. Make allowance for their style. Be gracious and forgiving when there's a miscommunication. Recognize that it might not be intentional. It might just be a difference in style or a difference in perspective or a difference in word choice, a difference in knowledge level, not implying stupidity or ignorance necessarily, just particular knowledge about a specific topic. Well, the idea is you want to make space for mistakes in communications. Show some humility. Be curious, not judging. And a lot of my episodes are targeted specifically at those issues. So get to know the person, understand their communication style, learn how to be gracious and forgiving, make allowance for miscommunications. Focus on building the relationship with the people on your team so that they know your intentions, so that they understand that anything you say, even if it's maybe a bit pointed or possibly harsh, that your intention is to help, not to hurt or to harm. Focus on building that relationship with your team. And I want to make sure I'm clear here. I'm not suggesting a buddy-buddy, we're friends, we hang out together all the time relationship. Now, maybe that's true. I haven't found that to be generally true in most leadership situations. I won't exclude the possibility. I'll just say it's not really what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is knowing your team, communicating with people in a way that they know that you mean them good, not ill, that anything you say is intended to help, not to harm or to hurt, that you truly do have their best interest in mind. And while you are focused on getting results, the dichotomy or the paradox of we need to get results and we need to have strong relationships, that you really are concerned in the relationship at least as much, maybe more than you're concerned about results. If you do that, you'll start maximizing your communication power. And then over time, your expertise will be shown and you'll gain expertise power. Now, hopefully, if you have lots of really strong relationship power and you've had the opportunity to work alongside people and demonstrate your expertise, you'll hardly have to lean on your power or authority power, your positional power. Start with the relationship, develop expertise, use authority or position only if absolutely necessary and as a last resort. If you can do that, you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.